Hey guys, what is going on? It's TomK6505 here, and for about the 6th time today, I'm going to be bringing you guys a tutorial video on how to export engines from, objects from 3DSMax to CryEngine, along with a little bit of Photoshop work, to give them a basic texture. So what you're going to want to do is, first off, you're going to want to install your plugins from CryEngine, if you haven't done it already, that is. So you're going to want to go to your installation folder and go to Tools. Now, if everything, Photoshop, Maya, 3DSMax, if all of that is installed in the default locations, you can just launch this CryTools installer. Click Install, Next, select the ones you have, click Next, and basically carry on. It's really simple, I did it before. However, if, like me, something's in a bit of an awkward place, like for example, here is my main drive, where, my Windows is stored, but here is where my 3DSMax is installed, pardon me. So with that, you'll want to take the file in 3DSMax/plugins, and you're going to want to take the relevant file for you. Now 13 is 2011, 14 is 2012, 15 is 2013, and 16 is 2014. Now I have 2014, so I have that one rather. No versions before 2011 are now supported, so be careful with that. You then want to take this, in CryEngine Tools, you then want to take this load CryEngine Tools and paste it in scripts/startup under your 3DSMax folder. That's just for 3DSMax. The rest I don't know how to do because of the fact that I used the installer for the rest of them because my Photoshop is in a standard place and all that good stuff. So I'm going to quickly start up Photoshop while 3ds is loading in the background. I'm going to start up Photoshop to quickly make a couple of little textures. So I'm going to make two new files, both 512 by 512, or I'm going to make one and then I'm going to save it twice. So I'm going to color one blue, and I don't know why that's happening, but while I'm recording I need to do it loads of times so it doesn't work. And you want to save it as a CryTiff plugin, which was installed from the Tools installer, which we just ran. So you want to save your objects and all the relevant files under Game SDK, and you're going to make this folder called Objects. Game SDK is off if you're on the latest version. Any version before it, I believe it was just called Game. So go into Objects, create a new folder for your thing, your current object. I'm going to call it Jukebox. I'm going to save that one as blue. Now you get this window, the CryEngine sort of configuration thing, I guess. And under these presets, it gives you loads of different options. There are tons of them, like your speculars, your normals, your diffuse, HDR cube maps, merge decals, detail maps, lens flares or lens optics, light projectors, loading screens, and all that good stuff, minimap. But I'm just going to go with the diffuse. Now it selects low quality for you. For anything, of course, that you want to be looking way better, you would select diffuse high Q or no MIPS if you don't want MIP maps, but I'm just going to go with low Q because it's only basic textures. Don't need it to be looking fine, girl. I'm going to make a green one, and I'm going to do the same thing, but ooh, don't do that. Okay. Shh. And I'm going to say this one is green, pardon me. And again, diffuse low Q. That's what this is called. It's called the resource compiler. So now I'm gonna go hopping into 3DSMax. Now I was going on my previous attempt. I was going to do basic objects and then a way more complex object. But until I can get the complex objects perfectly right, I'm not going to do it because the collisions didn't work. So I'm just going to work with basic objects for now. So I'm going to make a basic cube, and I'm going to add a couple of width segments just to show you what I mean in terms of the basic texturing and the collisions. So now you're going to want to go into your material editor, and you're going to name your material. Well, you're going to name your object whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to call it Jukebox, and you're going to call it whatever your object is called, because then when you export the material later, CryEngine will automatically find it and apply it for you. You're going to change the type of the material to a multi-sub. I'm going to discard it because I don't want it. And what you need to do here is the amount of materials that you have you need to then add one on it for the amount of sub-objects you're going to have. So for example, obviously I have blue and green, so I'm going to take blue and green, so that's 1, 2, and of course add one on. So 3. Nice and simple. Now you can either set it to the first or the last. The first obviously lets you know that you just have to select one, whereas you've got to remember how many objects you had to then save it as the last number. And you're going to make this you're going to make each of the subs a standard material. You're going to make them Crytek shaders. You're going to call this first one, or the last one, Proxy. And under the physicalization, you're going to check physicalize and select physical proxy node draw. You're going to leave the maps alone because you don't need to do anything there, and click show shaded material in viewport. Now under the second one, you're going to make it a standard. You're going to change it to a Crytek shader. You're going to change it to default, and then under maps you're going to select your texture. So you're going to go diffuse color, select that box, bitmap, and go to where your file is stored. I shouldn't have put it in such a long thing, but I did, because I'm silly. And I'm going to make this one my blue one. I don't know why. And you're going to click on this. I'm going to call it blue. You don't really need to name all of the sub-objects, but for neatness you can do. Show shaded material in viewport. And I'm going to copy it just because then all the settings were already there. So of course, you know, it's already on the Crytek shader. It's already on. Why is it on physical proxy? It should not be on physical proxy, sorry. It should also be on default. I forgot to change that, I guess. And make sure I change that one back now. So they should be on default. Anything but the proxy should be on default. Or no collide or obstruct, I guess, if you want them to be. But most cases, you won't really use that. So then changing this one to green, because obviously I don't want them both to be blue, because that would be kind of pointless. And I'm going to call this one green. And again, making sure they are all shown in the viewport, just to make sure that you can see all of them. So good, there we go. So now we've set up all the sub-objects, and we're going to apply it to our box. Now as you can see, it kind of derps up because it selects the proxy on some of the polys that you don't want it to be on. So if we go into and make our box an edit poly, I like adding it as a modifier here instead of right click convert to, but you can do whichever way you like. Now I'm going to set this one to be the opposite color to the other end, so it's going to be a blue, so I want it to be 2, I think. Yeah. And then I'm going to set these two to both be in green, because then it matches, or it opposes the other end. So I'm going to set that one to 3. So there we go. Now that all objects, all sides of our object are coloured. Now what you're going to do is you're going to, if I was to just export this object as it is right now into CryEngine, it wouldn't have a collider, and it needs one obviously so you can interact with it. You know, it'll stop you from going places, all that good stuff. So we're going to make a copy of it. We're going to set it to a copy. You're going to leave it as an edit poly, because then what you're going to do is you're going to rename one of the copies proxy, and you're going to select all of the polys and set them to the ID of your proxy. So mine was 1. So there we go. You can see it's now all like this grey colour that the proxy object is represented by. Of course it fades out depending on your view. So now that we've done that, this is actually ready to export as a basic object. More complex ones have a lot more steps to them, and when I get it right I will make a proper tutorial on that so that you guys can see it, and you know, hopefully you will you know, you'll be able to do it too. You can do it a way that I've done it, but it's very inefficient because it uses the whole of the mesh as a collider, and you can imagine if you've got a massive object which really only needs to collide on a, you know, on a certain point. Say that you have like a globe, I don't know, ooh, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know, just say that it needs to be like a collider for a box and it isn't, it's going to be inefficient, whereas proxies that are standard shapes are less, you know, are less heavy, so to speak, because it doesn't have to collide all the ridges and stuff. So with the proxy, you can go into the object properties, and under the user defined, you can just call it box. That's all you need to do for the proxy if you want to. You don't have to, depending on your mesh. I hadn't on my previous goes at this, and it still worked fine for me. So, but maybe if you set it to box, it'll be a bit more accurate because it is then a box. So then what you want to do is you want to go into your utilities, and if CryEngine 3 Exporter isn't already here, go into your button set, add a button, check the button that you want to, of course, make into the button and drag it across. You should know that if you work in 3DSMax. So yeah, now that you've got that set up, just select your CryEngine 3 Exporter. And you need to make sure you select every object, not just your proxy. So 2 objects selected and add selected. So I've got my chute box. Ooh, I'm going to rename my chute box actually. I don't want it to be called chute box. I'm going to just call it tut box. And then I'm going to actually remove it and re-add it to the list because I don't know. There we go. Sorry about that. It was just a little thing. So now what I'm going to do is, if you haven't by this point, you're going to want to save the file, because if you try to export into a CryEngine geometry without saving it, won't work. So save it wherever your object is going to be. So chute box, you never would have guessed it. And now you're going to leave export file per node. That will be in the more complex tutorial if I manage to get it right later. Leave all of these as they are, that's fine. So now I'm going to select custom file name, and I'm going to call it chute box. Because I've already saved it, it will automatically detect that. That's fine. Brilliant. Now you're going to click export nodes, and so long as it disappears without any problem, nice and neat, simple. Now we're going to quickly export the material as well, so making sure that your overall material instead of the sub objects are selected, you're going to click this create material button. Now if you're not already running the editor, it will give you a slight warning that it's not running and it's going to start it up like so. So there we go, it will start a new one. That's fine, okay, thank you. So wait until it's loaded. So it's loaded, there we go. And create material. Now we're going to save it wherever our item is and call it the same thing, because then CryEngine will automatically detect the name and apply it for us when we import the object. So because it is a standard box, I'm just going to call it, well, I'm going to make it a plastic. Oh, for the proxy, yeah. You need to change the surface type. I'm going to change mine to plastic for the heck of it. And this shader, you need to change it to a no draw, because then it won't be shown. It will just be a physics collider. Now, I'm going to quickly import it into CryEngine and see if it works without, but I read on another tutorial that you should change all these to the same material, so they will all be plastic, but I don't think you absolutely need to. So I'm going to leave it at that. So we've exported our geometry, we've exported our material. Time to hop into, oops, so many windows open. Time to hop into the editor. And apologies while it loads up, it can sometimes take a little while. But it looks like it should be relatively quick. There we go, lovely. So tutorial. And wait for it, sorry, there we go. So now, what we're going to do is we're just going to simply select our brush. We could make it a physics object, but that's something for another time. This is just to show you that it will collide. And we're going to bring in our chute box, and there we go. The colours work all well and good. And I'm going to drag it up a bit, because then when I do this, no. So there we go, we've got our object, and look, you walk into it, and it collides. Now for some reason, it does, because somehow the bullets actually managed to go through it and hit what's behind it. I'm going to quickly try this, go into where it's stored and change all of, not just the proxy, let's change it to something different. Let's change it to concrete, and let's set them all to be concrete. Let's try that. Concrete. So cool. Let's try that. And did that work? No, it didn't. I don't know why bullets can go through it, but the point is you can walk into it, you can step on it, and if you obviously, depending on what type it is, when you shoot it, it will make the relevant you know, decal, I think they're called. I think they're called decals. So of course if we were to set it to flesh, that could be an interesting one. That's kind of gay. Is it because all of them are set to I wonder if it's because all of these are set to concrete as well. Let's set them all to flesh and see what happens, because I have honestly never done this before. Ah, cool. That's awesome. I don't know why I like that. So of course, depending on what you want them to be, obviously you've got flesh, grass, ice, invulnerable, ladder, metal, ray proxy, plastic, rubber, snow, wood even. So let's set them all to wood, and then I'll show you this particle. And actually at this point we're done. Again, this doesn't work, well, it does work for more complex objects as well. For example, I will quickly show you this, which I have also made. I'm going to brush it in. I'm not going to make a brand new one. So I'm going to bring in my house that I made. So you can see here, the house works perfectly fine. It's all the same. It collides fine. You can walk in the door. The door is an open object, so the collider isn't around the door. The surface types are all set to concrete. So I would need to change that slightly. I'd probably export the floor and walls as separate objects because they are all concrete at the moment. Though actually, yeah, they're all concrete. So you can see it's okay. But the thing is, with these windows, you can see, of course, they are just like crosses of wood. I meant them to look like two sticks kind of bound together to make basic window frames. Now, you can shoot through these windows, but then it'll hit whatever's behind it. Whereas if I shoot at those, they do collide. So it's generating the colliders for the whole of the mesh. Now, depending on how large your object is and how vastly complex it is, that's obviously extremely inefficient, because you don't want it to, you know, collide every single tidgy little bit of it down to, you know, if you had a foot with toes on it, you wouldn't bother to make it collide with each toe individually. You would just make it collide with the foot, because you're not going to care if it's colliding specifically with toes, apart from if it's in a, depending on which toe you pull off, it'll cause him more pain sort of thing game, you know what I mean? So that's where this method, you know, where you just copy and paste the object and then change one of the copies to be a proxy, that's where this method can be highly you know, inefficient. But for something as small as this, it's kind of okay, because if I save this file and quickly open my other level that me and Aaron were making, yes, we are rather amazing, loads of errors because of how bad I am at making stuff, but yes, we made this. So you can see, obviously, I've got my door as well. These are separate planks made, bound together by polyattach. Again, inaccurate, well, not ineffective. What the bloody hell's the word? You know what I mean. Inefficient, that's the one. Very inefficient, because I should have just made one big box, which is the actual collider. But it works. Again, if it's only used maybe once or twice on relatively simple objects, you might get away with it, but obviously don't use it too much in this method, because then you will start severely decreasing the you know, playability of your game. Your frame rates are going to drop because you've got so many little tidgy pieces of an object being collided when it's not needed in that detail. So with that, that is the end of this video. I've showed you how to, you know, basically apply a couple of basic textures to each individual poly, if you hadn't seen that before. I imagine if you're looking into this, you probably have done, but I mean, I looked into CryEngine without any knowledge on modeling and texturing, and that was a while back. I'm kind of a little better at it now, but I'm not amazing, so, you know, you might have known that. If you didn't, there you go, you learned it. So with the whole proxy thing, you can make an object collidable, you know, making sure that you set the proxy layer within your object's material to be a no-draw proxy, and, you know, setting the material kinds and all that stuff. So yeah, I hope it helped. Let me know if it did. If you want to see any more tutorials, let me know, because I might make some. If there's anything you would like to see, of course, let me know, and I will see if I know it. If I know how, then I'll do it. If I don't know how, then I will unfortunately just have to leave it. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this did help, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.